Really strong words there used by Ollie from the band Years and Years at Glastonbury this weekend. Luke, what do you think of that?
Well, I thought Ollie's speech was excellent because he articulated, for me, what it means to fight for equality. Because he wasn't just talking about the need for better understanding and embracing LGBT plus people. He was talking about how no one can be truly free until we deal with sexism, till we deal with racism, till we deal with homophobia. And today's debate in Parliament is looking at one of those elements. It's looking at the rising hate that we're seeing online and how people seem to behave differently online than they would do in the pub or in the post office or on the street. The acceptability of homophobia, the acceptability of racism online is much more prevalent than in normal society. And that is something that is acting like a cancer that is creating real difficulties, real pain, anguish and upset for the victims of that abuse. And that's why I want to talk in this debate today, to share some of the stories that people in Plymouth have been telling me about what kind of online abuse actually means to them and what effect it has on them.
This is strong stuff, Luke. We've all heard the phrase, haven't we? Keyboard warriors, where people can, at a whim, just put something on a social media site and be really horrible. And it's interesting, that last point you made there, because for a lot of people, perhaps you'd like to explain how damaging this can be. This sort of it's abuse, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I mean, I have this general rule of online behaviour that if you do it in a pub, it's okay to do it online. So you wouldn't just jump into a conversation with other people on the pub, so don't do it online. You wouldn't just hurl insults at someone in a pub, so don't do it online. And It's a good test to see whether what you're doing or if what your friends are doing is acceptable. And, sometimes social media can be truly inspiring, sharing of brilliant ideas, fantastic stories, lovely pictures of cats, whatever it may be. At the same time, sometimes it can be a really dark, horrible place. And especially for those folks who are often the victims of societal slurs or discrimination. And within the big LGBT family, lots of progress has been made over the last 20 years. But if you look at the everyday lived experiences, especially the trans community, and that is the trans community in Plymouth or even in places where there's regarded as a greater embracement of trans people, such as Brighton or Manchester, you're still seeing horrendous, personalised, deeply insulting behaviours online. And today's debate really, I think, is an opportunity to kind of bring some of that into the open, because I think all of us want to live in a society where you're not going to get abused or insulted. But there doesn't seem to be sufficient consequences for those people who are doing it. And I want to see, I'm not necessarily sure that criminalising online homophobia as distinct to other types of abuse is the way forwards, which is one of the arguments that I suspect we'll hear today. But I do want to see social media companies, Twitter, Facebook and others, clamp down on this behaviour, because it's not right that certain online social media platforms are becoming a cesspit of hate and attacks, especially on minority groups. And that's something that I think, as not just as a British society, but as a global society, we've got to get much better at, because there should be no place for hate. Everyone can make a mistake and say something out of context, but that's not what this debate's about. This debate is about those people who pursue with vendettas and real hatred in their language, and that is something that understandably does cause genuine hurt and distress. And when we're seeing at the moment people taking their lives because of the abuse that they're receiving online, this isn't just a theoretical problem. This is something that is destroying families, and we've got to take better action on it.
And Luke, is this something that you've experienced personally? Have you received homophobic comments, things that have upset you, abuse like that online?
I have a bit, yeah. I mean, I'm Plymouth's first ever openly gay member of Parliament, and so as a result, I feel I have an obligation to speak out quite a lot about equality. And the vast majority of people are good, decent folk, but there is this hardcore of people who think it's okay to abuse someone because of who they fall in love with, or what colour skin they have, or what gender they are. And I think it's important that for as long as I'm an MP, I want to use that platform to be able to call out that type of behaviour, because it's not right, and it is really damaging. And to see what happens when things can go well. So last week in Parliament, we welcomed there was an event for young trans kids, so young people who have are trans, and to hear their stories of sometimes the abuse they receive for simply being themselves. These are young children, kind of like early teenagers, for just coming to terms with who they are, and then to see the real joy on their faces when they're just able to be themselves. And that, I think, is the prize to be won, to let people, regardless of whatever their sexuality or gender identity, to just be themselves. My word, how much money could the economy grow by having happier people? How much less money would we have to spend on mental health and health problems for enabling people to be themselves and to prosper and thrive in that environment? I mean, there is something that we can really gain from not being abusive to each other, as well as helping those individuals who are receiving tough times. And so I think we have to look at this as an opportunity that's currently being lost, as well as bad behaviour that needs to be clamped down on.
Do you know what, Luke? I bet, and good for you, there'll be a lot of people listening to the radio this morning. You're a Labour MP. Whatever people's politics, there'll be people saying good for you in bringing this up today. And do you know what, on a slightly lighter note, Luke, we thought strongly about covering this story as well this morning, and it also goes to underline there's actually normal stuff going on in the House apart from Brexit. Well done for standing up today.
Well, do you know what? The weird thing about Parliament at the moment is there's no Brexit going on in Parliament because there can be no legislation going through. So actually, this does give opportunities for other topics that aren't being discussed to be talked about. But, it feels a little bit sometimes, when we're talking about some minor issues, we're fiddling while Rome burns. But today we've got a really important topic that matters to people. So I'm really glad to be able to speak on that today.
And feel free to keep us up to speed with progress, would you?
Please do.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Luke Pollard, MP, with us this morning.